exciting thing about brand marketing today is that all the digital opportunities to tell a brand story. And I think we've probably confused the issue over the last several years because in the digital space, we've talked about clicks and direct response kind of measurement. And so we didn't always take a brand marketer along with us in that conversation. And we wanted to make digital different than the typical brand health measures and the metrics and the terminology that we use as a brand marketer. And so I think as we begin to adjust to a brand marketer's world and use their language, it's much easier for them to get into the pool, if you will. There is no better medium today to tell your story. And you can do that with all the different places, video, sight, sound, and motion, which brand marketers love because they grew up on television. And you can do it in new, fresh ways, like we've done it with the Arcade Fire video and using HTML and using the technology to tell your brand story. So it's very exciting. I think it's essential that a brand have a story and talk to the consumer in a way that is meaningful to that consumer. So in its essence, brand marketing is storytelling. Usually those stories are derived from insights about the consumer and the product and the way they use it. Sometimes you happen upon those as a brand marketer. Sometimes consumers kind of serve them up. Other times you spend years in focus groups and ethnographies and research to try to understand your consumer. Great thing is we've got the biggest database of intentions, and consumers happily tell us what they do every day with a brand. All you have to do is go to YouTube and Google your brand, and you'll see exactly what they're doing with your brand. I think the brands who really are thriving today are listening to their consumers and responding. There was a guy today on one of our panels who had worked at Zagat, and he said a negative review actually enhances the positive perception of your brand because then it becomes more authentic to the consumer. So consumers don't expect you to be perfect as a brand. They want you to respond. They want to know that they have a voice and that you care about them. And they'll give you a lot of rope if you take the time to respond to them. So there's good there's good customer service aspects to digital marketing today, and there's great insight into how to tell the story differently. Well, one of the examples we showed today on how a brand has done that, Miracle Whip created a campaign across all media on YouTube, though, allowed consumers to go in and tell you whether or not they loved Miracle Whip or hate Miracle Whip. I happen to hate Miracle Whip. But what they did really well is they put it out there, and then they allowed consumers to come back and talk to them, and they were responsive to general media. So Stephen Colbert covered it on his show, and they responded to that. And so they began to they continued the dialogue. And I think that's a great example of who really cares about a condiment until you make it interesting. And then they tapped into the insight that consumers really don't all love Miracle Whip, and they don't want you to. It's for people who have a certain personality, and they were able to go in and build the story off of that.